Right, welcome back. Let's continue with more news. Back to one of our top stories. Israel ambassador in South Africa, Eliav Belotsercovsky, says he will always work hard to improve diplomatic relations between the two nations. EFF leader Julius Malema and his supporters led a picket outside the Israeli embassy in Pretoria. Malema has also called for boycott of Israeli products. So Khayelihle Khumalo has more.
Very much so. So a group of EFF members and their supporters really once again picketed outside the Israeli embassy here in Pretoria. And of course, for them, they were just expressing solidarity again with the people of Palestine. But to hear just another side of the story now, joining us now is the ambassador of Israel here in South Africa. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Lovely. So once again, Ambassador, I mean, what has been your mantra as Israelis, that you have a right to defend yourself? Are you able to tell us, how are things unfolding, so far, in as far as the conflict is concerned?
Well, I think it's very important to remember how this whole thing started. I mean, on the 7th of October, on Saturday, a Hamas terrorist organization had sent its operatives, armed gangs of terrorists, into civilian areas of Israel, into the south of Israel, into villages, communities, and they murdered, they committed terrible crimes, terrible atrocities, which they documented themselves. They were very proud of it. And as a result, we lost 1,400 innocent civilians. Whole families were wiped out. It was really a terrible crime of unbelievable magnitude. And as a result, we are still burying all over Israel today. There are funerals of whole families, of children who were killed in front of their parents, of old people, and so on. And in addition to this, they also took 200 hostages into Gaza. Again, kids without parents, old people, and these hostages are now kept without any access to medication, without any access to food, without any access of the Red Cross to see. And if this is not enough, we are suffering every day missile attacks, barrages of missiles, one after another after the other, being launched on civilian population of Israel indiscriminately, on Tel Aviv, on Jerusalem, on Ashdod, on Ashkelon. Our people we have almost 100,000 civilians that had to leave from the south because they were under attacks to the north of Israel. So this is the situation of Israel, and that was caused by an unprovoked, unwarranted attack of the Hamas on civilian people of Israel.
Mr. Ambassador, this past weekend we saw the leaders meeting in Egypt trying to find a solution to the conflict. What does Israel make of such initiatives?
Well, we believe that the solution to the conflict, there is only one solution, and this is dismantling the terrorist capabilities of the Hamas, letting the people of Gaza have their own government, not the Hamas. Hamas is causing a lot of damage, a lot of poverty, misery to the people of Gaza. Look what is happening now in Gaza. If Hamas would not attack Israel, it would not have happened. So it's the responsibility of the Hamas, and Hamas must be destroyed. This is the only solution for the people of Gaza and the people of Israel to live in safety.
And what do you make, for example, of these marches that you've seen outside your diplomatic mission? Today you had the Economic Freedom Fighters, led by their leader, Julius Malema, and he nailed his colors to the mast, saying South Africa should cut off ties with Israel. There should be the boycott of the products from Israel. What do you make of such developments in this regard?
Yeah. Well, we need to remember Israel is a democratic country, and as such, we respect others' people's opinion, even if they are very different from ours. So they can express these opinions. We understand this. We don't agree with this, and I think that we need, from my point of view, is that we need to improve the relations between South Africa and Israel. When there are better relations, there is more attention span for listening to each other, to listen to the South African views and to listen to our views. I think that is the best option in this case, not by severing ties and closing embassies and so on.
And Ambassador, able just to give us a sense in terms of the war itself, Are we reaching perhaps the end point, or is it still ongoing?
Well, unfortunately, the war is still going on, and the war will continue until we can destroy the Hamas, until the people of Gaza will be free of Hamas, and until the people of Israel will be safe and could live in their houses with their families without fear of terrorist attacks, of terrorists entering their houses and killing and murdering them.
And Ambassador, during the course of his address, Mr. Malema, when he was talking just outside your diplomatic mission, he essentially threw his weight behind Hamas. In fact, he said when EFF becomes a government in next year's elections in South Africa, they will actually fund organizations like Hamas. What do you make of such?
Well, I am not in a position to comment on Mr. Malema's speech, but I just want to say that Hamas spreads terror. Hamas murders women and children. Now, if you want to support Hamas, you support terror. And let's call a spade a spade. That's the way it is. So if somebody wants to support the Hamas, he calls for terrorism. And this is something that you know, every peace-loving country we could see leaders of countries in Europe, US, Africa, they're all condemned the Hamas. And they condemn the Hamas because Hamas is terror. And you cannot support it. So if somebody else wants to support Hamas, this person is supporting terror. There's no other way.
And how's the situation in Israel? I mean, in light of what we saw on the 7th of October, just in terms of the situation, you know, how are the civilians feeling in terms of their general living conditions?
Well, the people are traumatized. The people are traumatized. This was a terrible shock. We lost 1,400 for a small country like Israel. You know, Israel is the size of comparable to Kruger National Park. So we are a small country. To lose such a massive number of civilians is a big shock. But on the other hand, we see a tremendous spirit of volunteering. People want to help. People are making food for the refugees from the south. We see a sense of readiness from Israeli population that if there will be an attack on Israel, to be ready to repel it. So from that angle, we are ready, and there is a sense of a readiness to deal with any challenge that we are going to face.
And just before we let you go, Ambassador, so a lot of organizations who are sympathizing with Palestinians, they say there'll be more pickets, there'll be more marches. Are you ready to see more of these events? And perhaps what can countries like South Africa do so that we see perhaps a two-state solution perhaps being rolled out and implemented so that we see coexistence and peace in the Middle East?
Yeah. Well, I think, look, as I said before, you know, people are whoever wants to express their opinions, whoever wants to demonstrate, to march, we fully understand it. It's their right, and they can do it in front of the embassy or anywhere else. I think we can see also that there is also a tremendous support for Israel. On Friday, we had a very big event in Mercy City with church leaders, with Christians. People speak out. People support us. So I think there are different opinions in South Africa. And yes, there are those that are more vocal, let's say, but the majority, from what I feel, from the emails, the WhatsApps, full of support, full of friendship that we receive, we can see that the majority of the population of South Africa understands who is the terrorist organization here, and they don't want to be associated with terrorists and murderers. This is, for me, this is quite clear.
All right, Ambassador, thank you so much indeed for your time, sir. So that's the Israeli ambassador here in South Africa, but also just reaffirming their position that they remain a very democratic country. So, you know, people are really more than welcome to have pickets and all kinds of things. Khayelihle, Khumalo, SABC News, Pretoria.